And I'll just introduce you. So today I am with David Spruzen from the UK, who's a member of the Dog Trainer Academy, and he's kindly agreed to have a chat with me and to share how he's going with the dog training and where he was and where he is now, and basically share a little bit about his journey and how he's going. So David, thanks for joining us today.
That's good, no worries.
So you were saying before you joined the Dog Trainer Academy, you had a look at a couple of other ones, and what was that you were saying?
Yeah, so I think the reason the Dog Trainer Academy worked for me was that it was a complete way of living with your dog in the long term, and it was something that gave people the tools to enjoy living with their dogs. I think a lot of people I've met have fallen out of love with their dogs, not in the sense of belonging and having them, but in the sense of enjoying them because of behavioral issues. And a lot of the other training programs I looked at were very much around the dog doing what you want it to do, because if it doesn't, it's worried, or the dog only doing what you ask it to do because you're bribing it. Those sorts of things, and very much 90% focused on training and dealing with specific incidents, as opposed to addressing underlying causes.
Yeah.
I think really what drove me was and I really like your section, which is when our own dogs aren't perfect. I love that. I've got that saved in my favorites. Because I have one like that. And until I got one like that, I thought dog ownership was really easy because all my dogs have been actually pretty perfect. And then I got one where I did nothing different, and it was suddenly, oh gosh, this dog is quite tricky. And I'd had 5 different dog trainers trying to help and had not made a difference, because what they were doing was addressing the reactivity and anxiety, but they weren't actually addressing what was causing the dog to be like that. And basically what was causing the dog to be like that was the fact the dog was never really calm. Even when it appeared calm, it wasn't really calm. So after a lot of research, I didn't want to do one of those courses where you spend a weekend somewhere and then you're a dog trainer. So I've met a couple of dog trainers who have literally gone away on a residential course for a long weekend, Friday to Sunday evening, and then they come out with a certificate saying they're a dog trainer. Not quite sure how you do that in 3 days, but the hardest thing about the dog trainer, the best thing about the Dog Trainer Academy is just the breadth of situations you can see. I think on videos you get so much information and so many examples of different behavioral challenges that dogs have, and how some react positively very quickly, how some take a much longer time. That's what I really liked. The challenge with any online course, I think, is I think we've had this conversation before. It's just confidence, isn't it? It's if I were in New Zealand, I would just say, Dan, can I come and shadow you for 3 days? And that would probably give me all the confidence in the world. But I think online, it's always that question as to whether you can go out and do it. And the reality is we're always much better with other people's dogs than we are with our own. I don't know why, but we are.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So I always make huge amounts more progress with other people's dogs that are 10 times more tricky than my own dog. Just seem to kind of progress really quickly. My own dog is kind of like, yeah, well, you think you're the boss, but I'm not going to, I think you said it to me, I'm not going to give up my crown very easily.
Brilliant.
So the reason why the Dog Trainer Academy worked for me, in summary, is it was the most rounded, and it actually started from the base of what's important to the dog, how do we get the dog calm. The thing I probably use most with clients, I've said I see a lot of difficult dogs, and the thing I probably use most is the energy meter, that scale of 0 to 10. And I get my clients to scenario, The last couple of weeks, they picked 5 or 6 different things, and I asked them where the dogs were on the energy meter, and it kind of gets them talking. And oh yeah, I can see why that happened and how that happened. And because mostly it's reactive dogs for me, dog on dog, dog on person, and it helps them really start to understand when the dog is starting to go up that energy meter. And then giving them the tools to bring the dog back down, be that avoidance, be that, whatever it might be. So I use that a lot. But really, the other courses, and I did a couple, the other courses just didn't address what needed to be addressed. Fundamentally, is the challenge.
Brilliant.
And the way I describe to people is, if you get a headache every day for a month, you take paracetamol and the headache goes away and you have an okay day. But after a month of getting headaches, despite the fact that paracetamol makes it go away, you kind of want to know what the underlying cause is, whether it's an eye test or whether it's something else, or dry eyes, or something really simple, or something more complicated. You don't really want to take paracetamol every day for the rest of your life. And that's what I think a lot of courses were. They were taking a paracetamol every day, rather than saying, well, why am I getting headaches?
100%. Yeah, love it. David, are you, could you share a little bit with us about your journey, kind of who you be before Dog Trainer Academy? And where you've come from, sort of, had you trained dogs? I mean, I think you've mentioned you kind of weren't a dog trainer before, so yeah, just your background. And
no, I wasn't a dog trainer. We've had dogs for about 20 years. They've all been perfectly behaved, pretty much. No, I was a businessman and had my own businesses, had 3 of my own businesses, and sold the last one about 2 years ago, and had to do about a year's handover. And I was trying to work out what to do next. And I volunteered in a bit of spare time at dog charity in training classes, totally unqualified, really under the supervision of other trainers, learning on the job, up to 10 not very well behaved dogs in a class. And when I was thinking about what to do next, because I didn't want to work full time, and I also wanted to be in charge of my own agenda. I thought, well, what do I love doing? I love being outside. I love meeting people. I love the challenge of working with dogs, because if you earn their respect, they give it to you. But if you're just talking nonsense, they're just not going to do anything that you want them to do. And so it's a really, really good test. It's not like the salary you pay them is paying their mortgage or anything like that. It's if a dog doesn't want to do something, they don't. So I thought it'd be a great challenge, and it sort of intellectually met the threshold, because just from body language through to nutrition, there's so much involved, and the psychology, the winning the dog's mind, I love that. So I decided to give it a go, and the more I got into it, the more I loved it, and the more I got into it, the more I learned stuff about myself and things I needed to change in my own life and how I lived. And so actually it's really interesting, because going from a position of having a very difficult dog after very many easy dogs and training difficult dogs, I've now come to realize that I should be really grateful for my difficult dog, because if it weren't for my difficult dog, who's much better now, I wouldn't be sitting here. I wouldn't have done the DTA. I wouldn't be doing dog consults. I wouldn't be helping out at the dog charity as a lead trainer rather than a volunteer. And it's brought a huge amount of purpose and fun and stimulus to my life, in a way that just going and doing another corporate job kind of never would. So that's a sort of brief potted history. I don't regret a minute of it, and it's great. It's really great. I'm really pleased I made that change.
Awesome. I wonder whether before you did the DTA, there was, I say probably, I'm sure there were, maybe there were some concerns or fears about, you know, or I guess my question is, what were the key fears or concerns you had about becoming a dog trainer, or about the program, the Dog Trainer Academy, the training program, and how have they been sort of answered, or have they been answered, or what were you concerned about?
I think my biggest concern was that I was going to be absolutely rubbish at it. That was my biggest concern. Having kind of worked in and led businesses for 35 years, and kind of, I don't know, kind of understood in a way how that all works, although you never stop learning. Going to something that's so completely different, I think, you know, I was at such an ebb with my own dog, and I was thinking, my God, if I can't sort out my own dog, how am I going to sort out anybody else's? So the first challenge was, I thought I was going to be potentially quite rubbish at it. So that's the first fear. I think
how's that gone? How's that gone? Are you rubbish?
Do you know, not with other people's dogs. I mean, I think my own dog is at about 80%, where I seem to be able to get other people's dogs. And so I need to find a way of closing off the 20%. But no, he's great. You know, we can go for lovely walks, and he's great. But he's not a dog you'd leave in a room of 10 children. You know, he's not that type of dog. So, but no, I don't think I am rubbish. I seem to be helping a lot of people with a lot of dogs, and it's also helped me hugely with the charity to do. You're laughing away, Dan. Obviously, okay, I am rubbish. No, I don't know.
No, I'm laughing because I know how good you are. I know how good you are, and I know how modest you're being. You're amazing, and getting referrals from everybody. So tell people you're getting referrals.
So that's good fun. The big fears about the DTA, I think, they were unfounded, but the biggest fears are the fact that you are not training in a forum where you get the ability to handle dogs. And so the confidence you need to have is in the methodology and the approach, and that will have a huge impact on the dog. And as long as you can have confidence in that, then you can structure your consultations and your follow-ups and how you improve the dog with that knowledge. I believed before the DTA that if you were a really good dog trainer, you had to handle a dog. And I would say 8 out of 10 of the dogs I meet, you really don't want to be handling, especially in their own home. Maybe over time, but certainly within the first 2 to 3 hour consultation, they need longer than that to calm down and relax. Sometimes in the second and third, with dogs that you would never think possible I would handle, I've been able to do that because they've followed the 5 golden rules. They've calmed down brilliantly. But I think there's this myth that to be a really good trainer and behaviorist, you need to help the owners live with and put the 5 golden rules in place and get their dog to really go through the dog calming code. Whether you handle the dog or not is absolutely irrelevant in many cases, I've found, because you're giving people the tools. And yes, almost without exception, I can handle the dog better than most owners. but it's irrelevant because after 3 hours I go. So we have to make them handle it. So that was an unfounded fear. But I think it's a confidence thing, Dan, to be quite honest. I think if you haven't done a course where you handle dogs, but you've done a course that imparts a huge amount of knowledge, and we've talked about this before, the thing I see that's most difficult for people in building a dog behavior business or getting going with their first assignments is having the confidence that the golden rules, the dog calming code will work and will make a significant change to people's lives. Once you've done 10 consults, you kind of see it. It's amazing. I mean, I did the consult this evening. I walked in, the dog was growling at me. By the end of the consult, it was up, snuggling next to me when I called it, rolling on its tummy. It had a real problem at the back window with barking. We had 4 goes at thank you, and on the 4th go, it stopped, shook itself, came back, sat by its owner, and then didn't do it again. And you kind of look at that and you think, wow, it really does work.
It's almost magic. It's almost. Do you ever? I remember doing consults, hundreds of consults, where I thought, if we had caught that on camera, people would almost be blown away.
The day was such a big miss. I turn up to a dog that is growling, and then 2 hours later, I'm calling it, and it's having its tummy tickled. It's growling and running away, charging, growling. It's then having its tummy tickled. 4 goes at thank you at the window, and it gets it, and then doesn't do it again. Still barks, but then 1 thank you, and it stops, shakes, comes and lies down by its owner. And I absolutely thought, oh my God, how cool would that be on camera to have videoed the first 3 minutes and then videoed the last 2 minutes? People probably wouldn't believe it. They'd think you'd staged it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because this is the real genius of the method in place. It's not using shock collars or force or a fear. It's not using tricks and bribery and food games just to lure the dog or bribe the dog. It's actual dog psychology.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And of course, that's before you've done all the training. So this is literally just calming the dog in the house. So at this point, you haven't kind of, and this dog I saw tonight is very reactive with other dogs, but she's a sweetie. She's so nervous. She's so frightened. I don't think she's got a bad bone in her body, but we know that dogs like that can still react, can still cause damage if put into the wrong circumstances. But what raw material to work with. It's absolutely fantastic. So just on that consult, because she responded so brilliantly, I'm actually going to propose to them tomorrow that I waive my fee in exchange for filming when we go out walking, because I think we're going to have an amazing result. So I've written the message. I haven't sent it. I'll send it tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, how do you capture those fantastic moments?
Oops, I was on mute. Yeah, it's very hard to capture stuff like that because you never know when it's going to happen. But just touching into the fee and what you charge, a lot of people struggle to believe or make the commitment to the Dog Trainer Academy because they struggle to believe they can, I guess, ever earn the money back that they pay, ever earn more than sort of $25 or £25 an hour. Can you share a little bit about the sort of money that you charge? I know for you, it's not all about the money at all, but just to give people an idea of what you can earn, for a consult and and how you can, what you earn in a week maybe or a month or
Yeah, I mean, because I'm semi-retired and I have committed 2 half days a week to the dog charity, I only do 2 consults a week, and I try and average 2 consults a week, and I charge £300 per consult, which obviously what I do is I have a pre-consult phone call to make sure I've got all the information. I do the consult, which is 2 to 2.5 hours. And what I normally find after that is people and dog or dogs are pretty exhausted. So I leave them with things to do over the next 1 to 3 weeks. And then I come back for an hour, hour and a half to focus on the particular issue or issues, which may be going out for a walk or whatever it might be. And depending on the complexity and where the dog is in its tolerance to the problem, I may or may not bring one or both of my dogs along to help. So that's kind of how I structure it. It's £300 for that. And follow-up lessons are £65 an hour. And because I do quite a bit for dog charities, I can be quite flexible. If people can't afford to pay, I will try and help with that. But the vast majority of people can afford to pay. I'm in the southeast of England, so I've only done word of mouth, so I haven't gone into west of London yet, but I'm in Buckinghamshire, South Buckinghamshire. And really the reason I pick £65 an hour is because if you want to have an hour of good yoga or Pilates, something like that, that's kind of the going rate around here. Physio would be about £80, or sometimes £50 for half an hour. So physio is 80 to 100. And I know there's, you can argue there's a lot of training goes in that, but yoga and Pilates are about £65 an hour. And I think the other thing which is really valuable is which nobody's taken up, but they always value it when I tell them, is the discounted online dog trainer rate. So I put that in my pricing schedule, and I say, if you have a consult, this is available to you. I think it's a bit early. I've only been going for 2 months. So I think it's a little bit early, because I think the online access is really helpful to take you to the next level as a dog owner. So if you're just trying to get your dog to 75, 80%, I think you can do it on a consult. But if you want to go further, the richness of that resource will help you do it. So I think the pricing is absolutely fine, and I think there's a real problem. If you don't charge enough, you're going to find that people don't value it. There's a lot of dog trainers around where I am that charge 20, 25 quid an hour, but most of the dogs I see, their owners have seen between 3 and 5 different dog trainers before. They've spent 25 to 30 quid an hour, but they've got no results, and they're normally in despair. So I because I'm only doing a couple of consults a week, I guess I can keep my prices there, and I can, I can just stick to word of mouth. But I think if I were doing 4 to 6 a week, I don't think I'd be any lower than 250. So when you think about how much it costs to train under the DTA, I think not paying it is absolute nonsense. I've paid it back already after a couple of months working 1 day a week. So, but maybe some people don't necessarily have that kind of confidence. I don't know.
I get the feeling as well, you could charge a lot more if you wanted to be honest. That's just my gut feeling.
I think if it was West London, we came across a dog trainer who came to try and help with our dog a couple of years ago, and his call out was £300, and he did 2 hours, and then any time after that was £80 to £100 or something. And he had a few sort of celebrities that were his clients. We didn't get him through that. We got him through a friend, but he came and he was with us for 4 hours. And the bill came and it was £500. And I didn't really learn very much.
No.
I didn't learn very much. And
well, the reason you don't learn much is usually because it's still one of 2 methods. It's still when the dog doesn't do it, cause them pain, or if the dog doesn't do it, treat them and give them a lure and say, come on. And then it's just one of those 2 methods.
Well, the funniest was we spent half an hour on visitors. And we mocked up the situation, and the dog would really bark. He said, so I'm going to be the visitor and we're going to do this sequence. So for half an hour, he just came in and out of the house. He just threw handfuls of treats on the floor. And the dog would eat all the treats, and then would turn around and bark at him. He was like, no, the dog will realize I'm throwing treats and that I'm a good guy. After half an hour, the dog was still barking. He's like, well, I don't know what to do now.
It's unbelievable how ridiculous some of the methods are, to be quite honest. I mean,
I was thinking, I've just paid 50 quid for that.
Yeah, that was my dog food you've just wasted. That's too funny.
So I knew there had to be a better way. So I think there is definitely a market to charge a value rate.
Yeah.
And I think what I want to do with my training is and behavior business is to open a dog behavior center and then have value-based pricing. So rather than saying it's by the hour, it's not by the hour. This is the package you get, and we're going to help you live with your dog for the rest of your life. And if after that package you want to take some hours, that's the price. But actually, we'll get you to the point after that package that you don't have to take the hours, unless you want more confidence or to go to a higher level. And if people don't want to do that when they're spending £3,000 to £5,000 on their dogs, when they've got nice cars in the drive, when they've got nice houses sort of around where I live, then that's fine. And if people are really genuine and can't afford it, then I'll do a little subsidy for those that really need it and are really committed.
Yeah.
But I think the DTA is really interesting because in the UK there are very few DTA qualified people. Yes. And it's a market that is dominated by dominance or bribery. Yeah. And it's just not good. There are people who talk about kind dog behaviors and kind training. And actually, I don't think that hasn't got the theme running through it. And actually, it's just all a bit wishy-washy. It kind of just doesn't have any results. So there isn't really, what I found, Dan, maybe good news for you. If you get people who research it, there isn't really anything else online that does what the DTA does. Yeah. There just isn't.
Appreciate it. David, it's been awesome chatting to you. What is the last thing, if there was somebody sat on the fence thinking, I don't know whether it's for me, should I join the DTA? What would your final words to them be? What would you say?
Do it, change your life. Take control, change your life. I'm somebody who loves working with animals, loves being outdoors, loves meeting people. I spent 35 years sitting in an office, and the happiest I've been at work is doing the DTA and working with dogs. But most of all, it makes you reflect and it makes you a better person. There's no question. So I would say do it. Absolutely do it. There are 10 million dogs in the UK, probably tons more in the US and whatever. 10 million dogs. And probably 10% of those have not been socialized in the last year. I mean, the market is huge. So yeah, you can make a living and go for it.
David, that's fantastic. I am going to stop the recording. Let me stop that recording. Stop recording.